guys, it's Andy here from dreamwise.co.uk, and today I'm just going to be showing you how to create a realistic iPod shuffle in Photoshop. So the first thing we're going to do is go to Google Images and just type in iPod shuffle. And we're going to select this image here, the blue shuffle right here. We're going to copy the image, and then we're going to go to Photoshop, create a new document, and I'm going to set the width at about 750, and the height is going to be 360. And then I'm just going to paste this in with Control V or Command V on a Mac, and then we're just going to make sure that we have our rules on, and if you don't see that, press Control R, Command on a Mac, and then you should be able to see these rules on the side. And then with our move tool selected, we're just going to click on the rule on the top and drag it down, and basically we're just going to use our rules to mark out where all the components on the iPod shuffle is. In this case, we'll just need to mark out the edges and also where the click wheel is. So I'm just going to drag this down like so. Try to be nice and accurate so that the click wheel doesn't look out of proportion. Okay, they're about the same size. And then finally drag down the last horizontal guide here, and then we're going to do our vertical guides. We're just going to do the same thing, just marking out the edges and make sure that we're fairly accurate on the click wheel, because otherwise when we come to do it, it'll look disproportionate. Okay, I'm just going to do the same thing on this side, like so. Okay, and now we're just going to create a new layer. We're going to take our our rectangular marquee tool, and we're just going to draw it like so. And as you can see, oops, we've forgotten a vertical guide here. We're just going to put the last guide in. Okay, and now go back to our, make sure we've got our rectangular marquee tool selected. And then we're just going to drag out, and as you can see, the marquee tool will snap to the guides, which is very helpful. Now we're going to go to our foreground color, use our color picker to sample some of the color from this original image here, or if you want you can use a color of your own, such as green or orange or any other color really that you want to use for your iPod. But in this case I'm just going to use the color that we have in this image already. Then press Alt and Backspace to fill the selection, and then we're just going to create a new layer, and then we're just going to go to our foreground color and change it to black like so. We're going to go to our gradient tool, make sure it's set to black to transparent, and then we're going to select make sure the linear gradient here is selected. We're going to hold shift now at the edge of the selection and just drag it over like so. And you might need to do this a few times until you get a nice size. That's a good size right there. Now that we've got that shadow in place, we are going to press Ctrl J to duplicate it. Then we're going to go make sure we've got this new layer selected, go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal, press V to get our move tool, hold down Shift and drag it along to the opposite end like so. And as you can see, we now have two shadows in place, but we're not done just yet. We're going to press Control A or Command A on a Mac to merge them down, so now it's just one layer. We're going to call this layer Shadows because it's just good practice to name your layers, because once you build up a lot of layers it can become very confusing as to what layer has what element on. And then we're just going to change the blending mode of this to Soft Light, and then we're going to press Control J to duplicate that layer, and then we're going to set the opacity of that layer to about 80%, like so. As you can see, we now have nice natural shadows there. So now we're just going to create a new layer, make sure Control click on this second layer here that has the background color on, and once we have a selection of that, we're going to rename this layer to Highlights. Whoops. Highlights. Then we're going to select our foreground color as white. We're going to go to our gradient tool, set it to white to transparent, and then select the reflected gradient at the second icon from the end here. And then we're just going to go here over the selection, and we're just going to hold shift and just drag something out like this. That's about a good size. You might need to do it a few times until you get the size right. And then I'm just going to take my move tool, hold down shift, and I'm just going to drag this to about here. And Next, I'm going to press Control or Command G on Mac to duplicate this, and then I'm just going to hold Shift and drag it along until I've got it in a nice place there, and that looks just fine. So I'm going to press Control A or Command E on the Mac to merge that down, and then we're going to set the opacity to about 50%. Anywhere between 45 and 55 should be fine. And now they'll look a lot more natural. And now all that's left to do is really create the click wheel. So we're going to create a new layer, call it click wheel. We're going to go to our elliptical marquee tool. We're going to drag out over these guides, because that's why we're placed the guides here, so that when we come to drag it out, it'll snap into place and be an almost perfect size. Make sure that our foreground color is still white. Press Alt and Backspace to fill the selection. Then we're going to make a selection again, this time of the inner square, and we're just going to hit delete. And as you can see, we now have a perfect circle, and that's going to be our click wheel. And now we're just going to apply some layer styles by double clicking to bring up the layer style panel. We're going to create an outer glow. We're going to set that to black, and I'm going to set the options on this. I'm going to set the opacity to, let's say, 20%. The noise is going to be 0. This is going to be 0. I'm going to decrease the size just a little bit. Set the blender mode to normal. And I think that's about it. That looks good. Now we're going to go to our bevel and emboss. We're going to set the depth to about 20%. The size we're going to set to about 10, but then we're going to move the soften up a little, like so. In fact, we're just going to leave the soften the way it is. Instead, we're going to drop the opacity down. That's going to stay on 75, that's going to go to 33. And now it looks a lot softer. And if you want, you can also apply a few pixels on the soften option there. Just mellow it down a bit. And that's looking good, so we're going to hit OK. And now all that's left to do is create the little symbol. So I'm going to drag the bottom layer, this image here, to the top. And now I'm just going to create a new layer. We'll call the layer Symbols. We're going to take our polygonal lasso tool, and I'm then going to go to my foreground color picker and use the eyedropper tool to select that grey colour there. And from there, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw out these symbols. It doesn't have to be terribly accurate unless this is important, in which case you might want to spend a moment making sure this is very accurate. This isn't the only way you can draw these symbols. You can also use the custom tool if you wish. I've made that a bit big. I'm going to actually... This is a little out of shape, but you get the point. You might want to spend a little more time than this. I'm going to press Alt and Backspace to fill that. And then I'm just going to select my Move tool, hold down Alt, drag this over to here. And then go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. And just drag this so it's on top of that. And just deselect. Then go to my polygonal lasso tool again and just make a selection of this. We're just going to use the same. We're going to go to our foreground color picker and select this because it's slightly lighter color. And then I'm going to go to my line tool for the remaining parts, and I'm just going to zoom in to get an idea of the weight of the line.